All right, so today I'm going to continue my conversation about the trickster. And the reason why I think this is so powerful right now is because there seems to be an energy in the cosmos of like the power of intention. It's just so powerful. It's like if you start to actually apply spiritual teachings, right, that you've just been passively listening to for years, if you apply them and then if you become acutely aware of how you get hooked into distraction, the potential for like nuclear realization and freedom and happiness and creation is enormous. Okay, so one of the things that I'm most passionate about in life is education. It's one of the most important things in the world. When I think about like the stuff going on in the world and all the problems of the world, I think of when I was in law school and I used to do this clinic where I worked for low-income people and low-income people with autism. And what I realized and what I was taught by the people that I worked with was like, oh, what's really happening here, like all of the issues and the poverty and the chaos, it's not so much about what the government's giving or not giving. It's more so about, in terms of money, it's more so about the lack of knowledge and the lack of the knowledge of rights and the lack of education. Like, knowledge is power. And when I see how little actually most governments actually do care about whatever side they're on, right? If they really cared, like lots of things would be solved. And the truth of the matter is that it's citizens, it's just humans who are wanting to embody the energy of sovereignty. Like, those are the people that really can make a difference in life. And I've seen it with my own eyes. The clinic that I work for, they won a case where the state now has to cover education for autism under medical care. Because the state tried to argue, well, you know, it's not because it's education, because in autism you actually have to give someone education. We can't consider that medical care. So they argued, yes, it is medical care because education is inextricably intertwined with, you know, the development of this human being, you know. So anyway, I'm really passionate about education. And when it comes to the trickster in us, like, my experience is that when you really understand how it works, and so I'm going to try with all of my intention and passion to illuminate it, to maybe spark a realization within you so that you can have a working understanding and ability to unhook yourself from these seductive and familiar energies, right? So really, like, if you think of autopilot, if you think of what autopilot feels like, it feels like a haze, right? It feels like a haze. It feels like death, essentially, because you're like drifting into an autopilot pattern. And it feels like death. It feels like you're deadened, like you are not as vital, as vivid, as alive, as alert. It literally, you're just slipping into a state of being. And so this idea of the trickster, which is taught in Kabbalah and it's taught in many traditions, apparently, I didn't know this, but it's like it can be very helpful to think of it as a force that is seducing you back into these autopilot states. And I love Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil. It's a perfect, it's a great dialogue about this process. And they talk about it in the context of like, Napoleon Hill is speaking in the context, you know, of manifesting, creating a business, but really this applies to everything in life. Like, if you meditate and your intention is just to be present and listen to silence, like, look what starts to come in, you know, fantasy, distraction. And my position about that is that it's absolutely, like if you do have a definiteness of purpose, right, and part of that is an ability to focus, an ability to concentrate in a way, and not in a stressful way, like those, all of that noise can really kind of just fall into the background. It might not never like completely disappear, but it will fall into the background of your experience, and that can be very powerful. So I want to talk about some of the other ways that I might not have mentioned yesterday that the trickster can show up. And I'm tying this into my discussion about unconscious male and unconscious female, because it really does help to think of it in those contexts. So if you set an intention, right, the way that a lot of these old school manifestation teachers talk about definiteness of purpose, right, often the opposing force that comes to meet you is doubt, worry, your inner critic. Boom, 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 boom. So of course we know that we're not the mind, right? So you can disidentify from those thoughts. And really, if you have a tendency to worry, doubt, question, do a thought experiment or do an experiment and give yourself till the end of the year and just don't doubt anything in your life. You have the ability to do that. And if you are in touch with the source of you, right, the ground of being, which requires maybe some meditating in silence, if you begin to feel that vibration of doubt, start to come up, you just settle it back down. No, I'm going to trust. 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 Just making the decision over and over again to trust, like it becomes part of who you are. And I feel like that's such an important, it's said so much, but if you look at like a lot of people, it's like, well, why are you looking up the astrology chart every single day? Because there's still doubt, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying is give this a chance of like, if you have this habit of constant doubting in your life, constant questioning, like that can be a little trickster energy that it might feel relatively innocent because it's just like, kind of could feel like a curious little kid, like, but what's going to happen to me? But what's really happening? But that's insidious. Like it's not innocent because it's keeping you out of the awareness of magic and beauty and synchronicity in your life. So if the trickster wants you to believe in death and that love isn't real and that magic isn't real, think about how worry and doubt is one of those obstacles that can keep you from realizing that. And it's like, wow, just do it for like, not even till the end of the year, do it for like 3 days. Do it for today, just for today. And see all of the things that were invisible to you that start to become visible to your consciousness simply because you've decided, right, healthy male energy, to no longer be stuck in unconscious female energy, that consistent dialogue of doubt. So that's really important. Now, if you think about the unconscious female energy as being like stuck in sensation, right, this is really important to understand. And I really tend to focus on the unconscious feminine simply because I find, at least in myself and in a lot of spiritual people, that like, and when I say spiritual people, I mean people like studying spirituality, embodying soul, on that quest, so to speak, they tend to get stuck in unconscious female energy. And I will pause by saying, if you are an unconscious female, you're also an unconscious male, because it's impossible to have only one half of you being unconscious, right? Both principles are in an unconscious state, which is the same reason why we actually don't live in a brutal patriarchy. We also live in an unconscious matriarchy, which is the puppet master of the addiction to addiction, which is the feminine dark pole of the brutality and the ignorance of the unconscious male. They are both at fault, right? And so we have to own that. So if the unconscious female, right, we get stuck in energy, one of the more subtle ways that can manifest is a fog. So so when I say stuck in, the unconscious female is stuck in sensation. That can be stuck in the sensation of doubt, like I just said. It can be stuck in the sensation of worry, the whirlpools of emotion in the environment, the astrological energy, especially if I'm an empath, careful with the identification with being an empath. That can turn into trickster energy because it becomes just another excuse to constantly be distracted, right? So I'm trying to bring some skill and awareness, right, to the to navigating these energies. So like if you think about that, stuck in sensation, you think of a fog, right? I can speak this from experience. This was confusing to me for a while. I didn't understand. I think confusion and fogginess and dissociation was so familiar to me for so long that I didn't realize that it was like an energy that I was stuck in. It felt deadening. But when I did Rohan, or when I received this process that I now do for other people, I saw like, oh my gosh, if I think of it like I'm stuck in a room, floating in water, floating in a gaseous, a room full of gas, like, oh, like so confused all the time. Like if I think of it in that way, then I can see it in my everyday life, right? So really become aware of like, what in your life seduces you, tempts you to leave your body. Social media is one of the primary things, because that's one of the reasons why I don't really engage with Instagram. It's something that if you use like, and if you have a definite purpose for it, like it can be a very beautiful tool and a very good connector, but like I just don't have that desire. And when I tune into it, and into pretty much any application like Zoom, or there's like this energy of distortion that I feel in my third eye. And so I don't personally want to engage with it right now. So I know myself, and I'm saying, okay, I feel an energy of distortion when I tune into this. Certainly if you look around the world and the people like mindlessly scrolling through everything all day, it's like, that's the trickster, honey. Like you're dead. Like you're dead inside, because you're just like, you're tuning out of the aliveness of right now, and you're tuning into an image of what somebody is putting online like all day long for like inordinate amounts of time. And so it's okay, like we have compassion for that, but to just like ask yourself, like, how do I get stuck in numbed out feelings, foggy feelings, confused feelings, right? If you think of that like metaphor of like being in a room of water, which feels like, I talked about yesterday, the glamorization of sadness. Now, I love poetry and I love the human experience and the human condition. And there is like beauty, and there is actually bliss in every emotion, because if you go into every emotional energy without mind interference, it's actually blissful, which is something that I speak about in other videos. But if your mind glamorizes depression, is it a surprise that it will, if the mind is designed to seek out what it deems as good, is it a surprise? Is it any wonder that you will recreate being stuck in sadness, which if you personified it, if you were to look at it like a drawing, could look like floating in water. Floating in a tank of water with a chain, but there's a chain on your ankle, right? That you're chained to the bottom. And what creates that? It's the idea that sadness is beautiful. And of course, there's nothing wrong with sadness. Like sadness is a part of the human condition. Grief is a part of the human condition. Grief is a natural phenomenon of life. But if you then recreate it because you cherish it on some level, that is the trickster kind of tricking you into remaining stuck in some kind of pool or room or atmosphere of sensation without healthy male energy to move you forward. So like ask yourself, on the same note, you might glamorize violence. You might glamorize violence, which that's something that I was surprised to see in my own mind. And that could come from, well, if you contextualize it to this lifetime, you can say, well, if you had violence in your household, the only way for you to cope with it is to make it beautiful. And so what does that look like in your everyday life? You attract danger. You attract dangerous situations when you travel, dangerous situations when you're in relationship, because part of your mind glamorizes it, right? So to see, like, ask yourself, like, do I actually put on a pedestal something that keeps me in danger, unwell, in low energy. And I have to say, like, remaining in something like anger or sadness or danger, like, that's a lot of intense biochemistry that you are allowing to flow through your body by remaining in those low energy states. So again, if the trickster wants you to believe that love isn't real, that death is more real than life, then how does your own mind create, right, these intense states of pain and suffering, where pain and suffering might be a normal aspect of life, but how are you recreating it, right? To be present with it is one thing right now, and then to stop creating it is like the next level. So the trickster, right, it's really characterized by a feeling of seduction into fog, sensation that is not alert. So think of like being alert and aware. When you're alert and aware, you have discernment, right? I'm here, right? Let's say I'm interviewing like a potential babysitter for my kids. Like, I'm here, I'm reading the energy. Like, I'm here, I can make an intelligent decision. You can't do a right action. Right action cannot occur unless you are perceiving accurately. And why don't we perceive accurately? Because we're stuck in unconscious male or female energy. If I'm stuck in unconscious male, oh, I don't have time for this, I'm in a rush. Like, okay, I'll just like interview you really quick and then get the job done, let's go. If I'm in unconscious female energy, maybe I'm preoccupied with the drama that just happened at lunch or some comment that somebody made about me. So I'm not paying attention to what's in front of me, so I can't make an intelligent decision. If you're not here and now, you have no free will. So just to gently but skillfully, like, start to become aware of how you get hooked into trickster energy. So another way that, the trickster can appear in your life is, it's really, again, in addition to being stuck in a haze or in a sensation, it's also like these stressful drivers, right, on the male side. These stressful drivers, like, of course, if you never allow yourself to rest, to rest, it's like back to that idea, like, the trickster doesn't believe love is real. It doesn't believe that love lasts, that there is such thing as peace. It doesn't want you to believe that there is such thing as peace. So it will keep you in a chronic state of aggression, maybe, of pursuing, of achievement, of grinding. And, some people, like, for some people, what the onlooker might call hustling and grinding, that might be like very like aligned for them. But if for you, like, you are literally being pushed. So on the unconscious feminine side, it's like you're being dragged into, you're slipping back into. On the unconscious male side, you're being pushed from within to do things that, like, you actually don't want to do. Let's talk about intermittent fasting. This is a phenomenon that's like very popular right now. It's not right or wrong, but like, are you pushing yourself to like not eat food because of some idea, or are you paying attention to reality? Like, I'm hungry. That's the reality. And of course, there's a lot of reasons why, we could be hungry. We could talk about emotional hunger and so on and so on. But the bottom line is that your authority, right, should always be reality, which is aliveness, which is life. If you put an image over reality or a concept over reality, that's the trickster as well, because I'm not in alignment. I am not in reality. I am in a virtual reality, completely out of touch with what is being the most mystical thing in the universe. What is, right? Because when what is no longer distorted by images or by any of this dark energy, like, you see it for the beauty that it truly is. So ask yourself, right? How do you get distracted? How do you get distracted from what is, from your intentions? Start to create intentions in your life and just notice the force meeting you. I mentioned yesterday, fantasy is a very typical, it's on the unconscious feminine side. While fantasy can be a very brilliant tool, I mean, imagination is one of the aspects of our divinity. But if you are chronically checking out of reality, and it feels while you are checked out, it doesn't feel vivid and creative, right? You're not really there. You feel like, it's almost like your vision is blurry and you feel numb and checked out. Like, that's the trickster. And so just to be able to recognize that numbed, foggy feeling and to say, oh, I see it. Boom. Now you're back. And just do what I'm saying and see how amazing, like the seeing of the fog, boom, it evaporates the fog immediately. And, you know, again, another really important thing to understand is the discernment thing. Think about the ways that a fog comes over you. It's very interesting because when you read like stories about evil, or in religious texts or in stories or in myths, like people talk about the fog or the haze or the manipulation. If you think about like a lot of stories about vampires, like they glamour you, like oh, you forget who you are, you forget discernment. It's like everything goes out the window because now you're in a trance. Look at how you get into trance. And I'm not talking about a good trance where you're meditating or walking meditation. I'm talking about you aren't here anymore. You're interacting with life in a trance that feels like a fog. That's the best way that I can describe it. So if our light and our presence is this nuclear, incredible, transformative power, right? Which is why, like, evil is not, there is no opposite to what we are. There's no opposite. There's the attempt to obstruct our realization of ourselves, which we have the power to go beyond, which is our part in the process of evolution, to choose life, to choose alertness, to choose intention. The human lifetime is extremely valuable. While we do live forever, the human lifetime is extremely valuable because in the astral world, when you think of something, you're there. You're there, you're there, you're there, you're there. If you've had an out-of-body experience, you know this, right? As soon as you point somewhere, you're there. And if you think about your own mind wandering, like that's how the astral world works, right? You think something, you're there. Boom, 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 boom. So it's like we have this human reality where we can embody ourselves, we can come to know ourselves as God, and we have these bits of time to course correct, to become aware and to course correct. Like that's an enormous gift. And so to become aware of the way that the trickster works while you're in a human form, like it's an amazing opportunity. It's an amazing opportunity for you as a soul. And so, you know, take it or leave it. You know, I just share what I share because I want to, because it feels fun, it feels good, it feels like part of why I'm even here, at least for now, right? It's really fun for me to share these things. I've had an incredibly deep dive into the mind field. I study the mind field like pretty much 24/7 because it's just something that started happening 10 years ago. I started just observing the machinery of the mind. And what I have found is that the reason why we are taught like the concept of the trickster or, you know, outwitting the devil, there's wisdom to it. There's wisdom to it because if you want to evolve past it, you have to know how it works. And if you personify it, right, it can simplify it in a way, right? So again, in a nutshell, the trickster seduces you back into autopilot. Autopilot can be a foggy place, a confused place, an inert place. It could also be a righteous place. It could also be a revved up, like adrenalized, more like brutal, unconscious male energy. And it will convince you, right? And that it will come up in your mind. You will convince yourself that this is where I want to be. I want to be enraged. I want to be righteous. I want to be deceptive. I want to be this, right? Your mind will produce dialogue to justify these states of being. So the medicine, first of all, is to see it while it's happening. And often if you just unhook it in that moment, like, it will evaporate. And to just do it over and over and over and over and over, it loses energy. And I can tell you this from experience, like, I had extremely intense tendencies to dissociate, to check out. And I used to tell myself, oh, I can't do anything about it. It's so immediate. It's so, I'd be in a conversation with someone feeling bored, and like I would feel my spirit just leaving my body. And I'd tell myself, the trickster in me would say, oh, this is just how you are. It's so fast. There's nothing you can do about it. That's a trickster thought. Yes, you can. In the moment that you see that you are checking out, right? You are choosing death, essentially. The moment that you see that, boom, you're back in. And every time you choose life, you heal the chakra system. You tell the subconscious, like, I am here to stay. I'm here to stay, right? Every time you actually make conscious choices, you are exercising free will, and spirit descends a little bit deeper into the chakra system, and you occupy your vital life force. You are occupying this reality more every time you choose, So long story short, this time right now, there's an amazing energy to leverage choice. And so take it or leave it. I hope this is helpful, and I hope you have a beautiful day.